This is Black Views, bringing you the Black News. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. That's right, FBA all day, like old ass Charles Barkley in the paint. I'm getting elbows, knees, I'm giving backs, because I'm moving people out the paint. Foundational Black Americans, the true Americans, the original Americans, the only people that's been loyal to America. And today, I bring to you a very special YouTube contributor. I bring to you Professor Black Truth. Yes, today I have his crime report today, number 750. I also encourage you to listen to Professor Black Truth as well. And one of the things I like about Professor Black Truth is his diligence to his work, his ability to interpret what the media, the white masses, are able to say and able to interpret it for the layman. I encourage you to listen to his work. I feel that he's very professional, and he's on point with a lot of things that he says. There are things that you may not agree with, but you can always feel free to Google it, do your own research, and you will find that he's right on point. And he is one of the major contributors, I feel, in the new black media. Because right now, I believe we have dozens, probably hundreds of new black media contributors that keep us on code, that we are able to listen to, because he's able to see other things. Obviously, I am not an everyday reader, but there are some people that stay in the news and they read, and they're able to interpret to us like the media should do for us. Like the media should interpret things for the layman to understand, but they don't. So we have the new black media. The old black media, you just have shills and tethers. People that are there to just get a paycheck and say what they need to say to toe the line. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce to you Professor Black Truth today. Let's go.
This is the moment of truth. And now the Friday Crime Report. Cartersville, Georgia, Tuesday, December 10th, 2024.
Cartersville high school cheerleaders are speaking out about a hate crime targeting them. Someone wrote the N-word and other obscenities in their cheer room and also ruined their uniforms. Police have made an arrest. Channel 2's Taisha Fernandez went to Cartersville to ask the cheer squad what they think is behind this crime.
The cheerleaders said this whole incident made them mad instead of being sad. And they said what made them feel so upset about it was that it wasn't just the racial slur. It was the personal attack on their uniforms that were not cheap.
What's the reason behind it, And
I want you to think about this for a second. These are children. In this society, well, I can tell you what's not happening, but what we should do is we should always protect the children. Because if you want to resolve the issues that we currently have today, you have to protect the children. And by protecting the children, they will bring in a new day and a new time. But if the children are always the victims, then their innocence will be taken away. Let's go.
These two students are cheerleaders at Cartersville High School, and they were upset about what happened in their cheerleading room Tuesday. Someone spray painted the N-word on their refrigerator and ruined their uniforms by pouring mustard and coffee creamer on them.
We already have like a negative image on us just because we are a mostly black team. So it's just kind of like, it made everybody mad. Even we have 15 black girls and one white girl that made her mad too.
Police ended up arresting a minor for it, but the cheer coach didn't like the way the situation was handled. Cheerleaders had to look at this again when they got to school the next morning. A spokesperson for Cartersville City Schools says miscommunication was the problem because administrators began their investigation immediately. They said, quote, the joint investigation with Cartersville Police concluded within 24 hours on early afternoon Wednesday with the arrest of a juvenile. Cartersville City Schools does not tolerate any actions that make our students and staff feel unsafe. She went on to say they couldn't clean up this mess because it was an active crime scene. These girls hope that student gets more than just suspension.
You know, when something like this happens, we get a whole lot of people who decide that they want to talk about their thoughts and feelings. When something of this nature occurs, that's not the time for thoughts and feelings. That's people who want to make it all about themselves. Now, we can be disgusted by this incident, but don't you dare act surprised. I'm a Gen Xer. And that's significant to this because mine is the first generation born after the Civil Rights Movement, the first generation born after the alleged end of job discrimination, after the...
I want you to think about that for a second. Just think about the magnitude of something like this, what this does to young black minds, okay? And then on top of that, like these type of stories are not carried over to CNN. They're not on prime time. What's on prime time? CNN. Dumb shit all day. Straight dumb shit. You don't have stories like this that get into the fabric of America. This is happening every day and nobody pays attention to this. And the only thing they pay attention to is the main headline where they'll show some rapper got killed or, there's 100 people fighting in the middle of the street. You know, all these content creators make money off the misery of black people, off the stupidity of black people. But when you see things like this, there's no light of day to this. And not only that, your representative, your congressman, your senator, they say nothing about this. Absolutely nothing. That's why we say the black politician is worthless. Let's go.
Alleged end of voting discrimination, after the alleged end of housing discrimination. But most importantly, after the alleged end of segregated schools. In fact, that last point was one that had to be touted since the 1950s with Brown versus Board of Education, but that was a decade before the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts of the 1960s. And yet, how much progress was there when it came to equal education in that 10-year period, or in the 70 years since? As a Gen Xer, I grew up watching TV shows and movies like everyone else, mostly TV shows that depicted children of all colors getting an education in a multiracial setting. And I also watched as millennials were being spoon-fed the same propaganda. Everything from Saved by the Bell to Power Rangers to after school and Saturday morning cartoons. Everywhere you look, the white media was pushing that imagery. The TV shows and movies and the white media so-called...
I mean, really think about it. That's how we have Drake touted as the best rapper of all time. He wants to compare himself to Michael Jackson. Remember, he was the little kid that was in the wheelchair in Degrassi High, I believe that's the name of the show. That's what we saw Drake. So then he went from that all the way on up to the greatest rapper in the world, better than Michael Jackson. And he's out here talking street crimes. He's out here talking grimy. He's out here talking to our children. His music is playing 24/7. So it goes to show you, like he said, you're being spoon-fed this along the way. And this is what they want for black people. And this is what they want to say, oh yeah, this is the culture. Misery is the culture. Very good point.
News is nothing more than propaganda whose purpose is to bestow innocence on this racist society by claiming, see, we've changed, we're not racist anymore. Why, look at this TV show with all these different races of kids, and this TV show, and this news show. But their phony claims of black representation is merely for show. The illusion of multiracial schools is the #1 way the U.S. has tried to push the lie that it's changed its tune since the 1960s.
That's right. Fake integration. Okay? And then, like I said, your representative, all these people these people are Uncle Toms, bro. Straight up. They don't care anything about the black people. They'll go in caring, but they're going to understand that this is a job like anything else. And it's a good paying job, so we're just going to sit here. And I honestly believe that the black politician has the easiest job. He does. He is, especially for Democrats. He doesn't have to do anything, and it's nothing else going over there with the Republicans either. Neither party is for us. It's all bull. When you hear people say the left, the right, and the right, that's white people trying to say, instead of saying it's another white person, they're just gonna say it's the left and the right. Okay, what they would love to do is totally 100% demonize niggas and straight up just be black on one side and white on the other side. But they can't, because they run this whole show. So instead of saying niggas, they're going to say left and right, the left and right. And it's like, we don't run shit on the left or the right. We're basically passengers. We don't run none of that shit. So that's why we cannot obligate ourselves to any particular party. And we must finagle where we can and go with who going to give to us, whether they be white, black, or Puerto Rican. Let's go. Very good point.
Because, of course, what better yardstick would you measure the improvement of a society by than its children? And you would be right to actually use that measurement, because while in black homes we had been taught to be colorblind and judge people by their character and not their color, we noticed soon enough that wasn't what was being taught in the homes of our classmates. They were being taught exactly the opposite. And as for the teachers and principals at these schools, in their sick minds, Jim Crow never went away. And forget about separate but equal. To them, it was separate and unequal. And these are the individuals who black children were being taught, or rather not taught by. Even as a Gen Xer, it quickly became apparent that no matter what we were shown on TV, no matter the allegedly multiracial classrooms we were in that the government said were apparently colorblind now, our classmates' parents hadn't changed their minds one bit about their attitudes regarding race. And it was these parents who were the main ones.
That's right. So I want you to understand this, that in your society, you were being told that the world is changing and that people aren't, racist anymore. Or they are, but racism's still there, but they are working hard to change it. And that it's now a better place and a better world. This is what you're being told in your house. And if you grew up in a single parent home, you probably were being told that, hey, you need to go ahead and listen to them. You need to stop doing things. Basically the whole point is, if your parents at home were not informed to keep you on code, you're being told all day that there's no racism. So then when you go out into the world, you're going out into the world. You have a good nature about your thinking, but they're going to screw you every time. This is what they do. So you're not prepared. You will not be mentally prepared for this world. That's why you see a lot of young kids go crazy. You see a lot of people out here that just, they can't take it. The pressures, because they're being told that if they do everything they're supposed to do, they will succeed. If they do everything they're supposed to do, this will happen. But these things aren't happening in reality because of racism, discrimination, and they're able to do that. Let's move on.
Saying they wanted to homeschool their kids all of a sudden, even though most of these parents barely pass school themselves. But mainly, if possible, they wanted to get their kids out of public schools and into private schools. And of course, the government was bending over backwards to make sure that they funded it, but only for white neighborhoods. And it wasn't so much about getting a higher quality education as it was that, just like Joe Biden said in the 1970s, they considered it an insult to their racial status that their children should be in the same schools as black children at all. And we saw that attitude manifest itself in their children. There had already been a number of school shootings that had taken place in the 1980s and into the 90s, but at the end of that decade, America had its first grade school massacre, Columbine. It wasn't a mass shooting where one person was killed and 10 injured. It was a mass killing. I feel like I have to point that out because the white media loves to conflate the two as if they both mean the same thing, but they don't. Now, what doesn't get reported about the atrocity at Columbine was that Klebold and Harris were also on a white supremacist rampage that day. In fact, their associations and affinity for white nationalist culture is something that never gets mentioned except by the black media. They listen to that kind of Nazi rock crap that white supremacists are into, among other things. Klebold and Harris were part of a clique of bizarre oddballs at Columbine who became known as the Trenchcoat Mafia due to the fact that they wore their trench coats year-round, even in class. But that wasn't the only odd attire they wore. They also wore military berets, combat boots, red shoelaces, and Confederate flag patches. Gee, sounds just like Dylan Roof, another young mass murderer now, doesn't it? And the trench coat mafia's red shoelaces are important to note because that's what white supremacists like to wear. Red shoelaces to symbolize that they had shed blood for the cause. The area of Colorado that Klebold and Harris lived in had very few black people, and their high school had practically none at all. Yet during their mass murder spree, Klebold and Harris singled out the only black student they could find, a young man named Isaiah Scholes. According to witnesses, one of the gunmen screamed, "There's that little nigger SOB right there," just before they gunned him down. Now, that wording clearly indicates that not only were they looking for black students to kill, but that they had been looking for Isaiah Scholes in particular. As it turns out, Isaiah Scholes and his siblings, who also attended Columbine, had had previous run-ins with the Trenchcoat Mafia. Isaiah's father recounted that several months earlier, one of the Trenchcoat Mafia had picked a fight with Isaiah. Now, Isaiah was only 4'11" and 120 pounds.
You have to understand, 4'11", 120 pounds. This is ideal for the white supremacists to pick on. This is what they love. They're not protectors, they're offenders. And you have to look at situations like this. You don't hear about this in the news. They don't talk about black children that are beat up, that are basically mistreated in majority white schools and majority white areas. They don't talk about that. Only thing you hear about is, there are a bunch of kids, black kids, that were fighting in schools. But they don't go deep dive and tell you that those black kids, or so-called black kids, are tethers. That those kids aren't even black. They're tethers. And the reason why I say they're not black, because any other time they'll tell you who they are. They're only black when they're among us and they're a mutt. You see? So let's move on.
But he had made the school's football, wrestling, and weightlifting teams. According to Isaiah's father, his son and this member of the Trenchcoat Mafia came to blows. And given that these reprobates were still angry about it several months later, I think it's safe to say who won that fight. But Isaiah's sister reported having been racially harassed by some girl thought to have been dating one of the Trenchcoat Mafia members. So this is why on the day of the massacre, they spoke with clear recognition when they saw Isaiah Scholes, because they couldn't beat him in a fight, and as we know, white supremacists hate to take an L. This is the part of the Columbine massacre that the white media doesn't tell you about. But the racial violence and hostility in America's schools certainly didn't stop there. We get subjected on a near daily basis to yet another accounting of some violent incident where underage white supremacists harass and often violently attack black students. In 2015, you had 2 white girls who decided to celebrate their school's Spirit Week by wearing shirts with the N-word on them. Now, they claimed they were doing it because it was rap lyrics that they were quoting, but notice how none of these little racist music...
And I want to pay attention to the spelling. See how they try to, no, it don't say nigger. It says nigga. This is so offensive. I want you to think about if people were saying, well, no, we're not going to say J-E-W. We're going to say J-U-E. We're going to say J-U. I mean, I don't think that would go well. And this is why I say reparations is owed by this government, by this country, because they allow this to go on. This isn't stomped out on the state level. This isn't stomped out. What other group is allowed to? I mean, people say things. People. Everybody has a byword. What I mean by that is that everybody has a slur. Okay, for every group. But guess what? There's some things that you're just not going to say in public. But it seems as if ours. I'm an online gamer, so I'm always pretty much gaming, and every day. Can you imagine, like, young people? I'm a Gen Xer too, so you know what I'm saying. Listen, so I'm used to the N-word, but every damn day it's that word that you hear online, and there's no other word like that you hear. And this is why I say reparations are owed. Reparations are owed by companies. Reparations are also owed by those people that own those servers that allow people to use the N-word and to say slurs. While you have a child that's probably some kids probably literally game all day. You know, they probably get up in the morning before school and game for 2 hours. And then they go to school. Then when they come home from school, they game. They probably on that shit all day. And just think they have to hear that word, nigga, all day. And you swear by law that they're hearing it in the rap lyrics. They're hearing it online. Some of them don't like every rap song. So you can't assume that children are hearing it. They're hearing it online. And this is why reparations are owed by companies and straight up industries. They're going to have to figure it out and get this money together. Because every group is guilty of allowing that word nigger to be used, because that's what it is. Nigger, it's the same thing. And it doesn't matter if we say it. It really doesn't. Foundational Black Americans, guess what? Yeah, it's not a good word, but you know what? We can say it. Other people say use theirs in their group, but ours is like megaphoned out. It's, you know, all these industries that allow that word to be used in their artwork. I don't care if Snoop Dogg says it. I don't care, but Snoop Dogg does not own a record label. Snoop Dogg does not own an industry that allows this word to be megaphoned and sent out. Snoop Dogg is an individual. You understand what I'm saying? Because at any time, these companies can just, you know, they can just hit the button when you get to that part. You know, nobody has to hear that. Everyone needs to know that that is not a word that should just be out for everybody else to say. And guess what? If there are black people that's saying it and it's around other groups or whatever, then they should be reprimanded for saying that. Yes, they should. But if they're in their community saying that, you know, that's their business. You don't even live in that community. Why are you concerned about what they're saying in their communities? It's not professional. That's not a word that should be used in a working environment. But all day they allow it to go. All right, let's go. Sorry.
Music lovers ever uses verses or lyrics that denigrate white people. For some reason, they don't ever see those as being eminently quotable. Not very popular with them, it seems. The year after that, there was an incident where white female high schoolers thought it funny to use their shirts to spell out the N-word and then post it online. Gee, no rappers that they could mention? Something about female students and racist shirts, I suppose. Last year, you had that incident at Shawnee Mission East High School in Kansas where a white male student, unprovoked, beat a black girl so badly she had to be hospitalized, and the school bent over backwards trying to take the side of this violent thug who attacked that child. The students at the school staged a walkout because that incident was only one of many that routinely happen at that school. The kids have been complaining about racism there for years, but the school administrators made it a point to protect those hate criminals. From Columbine to the present, these incidents are an accurate reflection of what's been taught in America's homes for the dominant society since the 1960s.
And look where they at. This is out in Orland Park, Kansas. See, you don't hear about this, but then you want to get on. But then you want to get on Twitter. And you're going to have people that live in areas that don't even be around black people or know black people. And they're just going to go by what they see on TV because that's what the TV does. It assists in demonizing us. It assists. That's exactly what their job to do, is to keep us on a lower tier at all times. That's why our shit is so megafied and played old. It'll be old videos sometimes, just play over and over and over again. They never want us to forget about, you know, it's not so much us. What they're doing is they're programming the white people, the major society, to see us as villains, and that's their job. And nobody's saying nothing about that. Everybody knows it's not right. Everybody knows it. Nobody says anything because they're protected within a system of white supremacy and those that choose to accept that way of life. Damn, that's crazy.
This is what every generation of black Americans since the late 60s has experienced in what is supposed to be a now colorblind, multiracial society. Why is there still racism in America? Because the dominant society is still teaching it to their children in their homes and protecting that racism outside their homes. Black students are constantly under attack, and black parents have to make it a point to not merely show up after some racist incident has occurred, but also to be proactive, to stop these hate criminals before they attack. In every single case of racial harassment or violence against black students, be it in schools or even universities, there is always some number of attacks and overtly hostile acts by the perpetrators that preceded it. These incidents never come out of the blue. School faculty and administrators protect these anti-black racists before they pull their heinous crimes, but they only do something about it if it makes the news, and even then, they work to protect these criminals from punishment afterwards. They're always told about these people in advance. They're never just individuals who, oh my God, we didn't even...
Okay, I won't play the whole entire video, but I do encourage you to go to Professor Black Truth's his channel and interact. You know, as you can see, he has the following of brothers and sisters that like to get on here and pretty much communicate with each other. And I encourage this. This is a media that's important and that's very useful. They say in a niche, you have to be able to serve a purpose. Well, this is definitely a purpose. Professor Black Truth. There's a lot, and then, you know, there's a lot of things you may not know that he talks about, that you can familiarize yourself with and do some research on. You understand? You know, on my platform, I will be bringing different black contributors to my platform to make us bigger, so you can see who we are. And even, like I always say the same thing, even you that may not be a contributor, you have a life experience that you can talk about, that other black people, foundational black Americans, would love to hear. And, you know, white supremacy is alive and well. You know, you saw what happened with Jordan Neely. You saw how basically he was treated, discarded to the side, choked out by a white man, and just because he was a veteran. And I don't even know what kind of veteran he was. You know what I'm saying? I'm a combat veteran myself. I'm a U.S. Marine, and I know there are guys like that in the Marine Corps, but those guys are what we would call shitbirds. They're fucking like those motherfuckers are set in a corner somewhere because they can't follow instructions and they cannot function in this high stressed environment. So like, yeah, I see a shitbird doing that, jumping on his back for some kind of glorification. It felt good about it. But then again, you know, there's something even more sinister about that man. And I just wanted to bring Professor Black Truth, and I'm going to do that weekly. I'm going to bring him to you and help interpret and break down and react with my own opinions. And the way we're going to be proactive in this system is to change our way of thinking, first of all. Okay? There are a lot of things that we need to change about us as a people. Do not become a criminal. Do not allow the devil to make you a criminal so that he can imprison you. Do not allow it. Be smarter than him. The devil is a lion waiting to pounce upon you, to imprison you and to kill you, just like Jordan Neely did. Just like Jordan Neely did. You saw what he did? He saw opportunity. He saw this guy. He saw that this guy basically was, listen. You know, I work downtown Washington, D.C. every day for almost, 30 years. So I had to use the metro. I had to, and there were people of different colors, white and black, that were in that system. As he is. Sometimes, you think like, oh, you know what, hey, might have to. But at the same time, I never in my life or in a million years thought that I would just get on someone's back and just choke them out. And, especially didn't produce a weapon. And then, there were later accounts of people that said, yeah, he was loud. And like I said, he was loud. The man had a mental illness, but he is allowed to die. he is allowed to die. Because, you know why? Because he was black, he was vulnerable, and he was not of sound mind. You see? He was out of his mind. And that's what the devil waits for, that opportunity. And I'm not here to tell you that it was right what the man did, but understand the devil doesn't play in what is right. It plays into what is opportunity and what's going to satisfy him. And the opportunity was given. And he took it. And you see how the system worked for that. That's so evil. But I'll leave it at that. This is Black Views, bringing you the black news. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace out.